I spent a good day on the bathroom floor. And that was the first time remember the floor moving. I started hallucinating. And that kind of freaked me out. And I said to myself, I said, it's either time to die or get help. Do it one way or the other. I just knew I was going to die or I was going to get better.
It's estimated that 20 million Americans struggle with substance use disorder, and I used to count myself among those 20 million Americans as an individual who struggles with substance use disorder. My journey took me to multiple treatment centers, several different prisons, and a lot of run-ins with the criminal justice system. And not until I found recovery at age 20 did I realize my true purpose. My purpose in life has been to help people find recovery. My name's Chris Dreisbach. Welcome to Repurposed. Paul, you want to tell us a little bit about your early life, maybe leading up to when you first played baseball?
My early life.
Yeah.
All right. You talking like high school and grade school and all that stuff?
Yeah, as early as you want to go
Right,
until the first time you played baseball, because I kind of want to talk about that first time you played and how it made you feel and so on and so forth.
All right, so my early life starting out. That was, I played since I was 7. My dad had me in the backyard throwing. I remember him building an own T-ball tee with a piece of wood but looked cut out like a home plate, and then I think he used like the radiator hose as some C clamps and the radiator hose as a tee. Man, I used to love it. But every day always playing out when the weather was nice, all the way up to Little League was. In this area, I was dominant, I guess, and high school, same way. Loved playing it. I think I was probably 12 when he couldn't catch me anymore. He used to put a handkerchief underneath his glove, catcher's mitt, and then I got throwing too hard, and he had to give it up. So I used to use a catcher again after 13. But small town where I grew up, everybody knew everybody, played 3 sports. And it was just a thing, and I just was blessed with a good arm. Went to college, and let's backtrack, because I know when I was 15, 16, I used to go here in Charleston. They used to have tryout camps. Major League scouts would come, and that is kind of how I got noticed by going to those camps. I used to go in Steubenville, Ohio. I just went everywhere, just here, and. One of the scouts said we don't want to draft him out of high school, but we want to keep an eye on him. And they told him some of the college people who he knew. So I got down to South Carolina for college at USC Aiken. And that's how I kind of started. And then from there, I couldn't stay out of trouble down in South Carolina, to be honest with you.
What were you doing? What were you doing down there?
Oh, there was a lot of pretty women, pretty girls, good weather. I had to walk by the pool to get to class. too many times I'd get yelled at and stopped and say, "Yo, Fletch, screw it, let's go, come on." And it didn't take long for me to. So, my freshman year I had shoulder surgery. Missed that year. I was redshirted, and then my second year we got a party and some buddies started drinking, and one got carried away. Said this guy was wanting to, wanting to fight him and all this stuff, and I was trying to play the peacemaker, and I was drunk too, and he said, "Oh, you want to fight me too?" And I was like, "What the hell?" So I should have decked him, but I turned around and I punched a big pine tree and then broke my hand. I had a boxer's fracture, so there went the season for that year, and it was all alcohol and induced. So I transferred back up here to West Virginia State, which is just down the road here, an institute, and got signed, played the full season, then got signed from there.
All right, so when did you know you wanted to make it your life, your career, baseball?
When I was probably, in high school, I was going to want to be, football was my favorite. I was a quarterback, but I knew I couldn't, I had blessed with a great arm. I knew I couldn't make it as a quarterback. I was too small, too slow. I did get offers to go play both sports here at West Virginia State and Appalachian State. I was recruited at Ohio University to go play football, but not baseball. But I guess it was in high school. Funny story, my principal called me in the office because I was a BC guy, mostly C's, anything to get eligible. My schooling was just to play sports. And he's like, "Paul, have a seat." He called me in his office. I thought I was in trouble. He said, "Listen, you're not going to make it. You're not going to make it to the big leagues." I'd done my research, one out of every 200,000 people, whatever. He gave me this number. He said, "And I'm here to tell you, you're not going to make it." And I said, "Okay, I will make it. I am going to make it." I never forgot it. I don't think that was his intention, to push me to get there. His intention was to push me to make better grades, because like I said, I was a C guy. I could have been smarter and played and did a lot more in school. I just didn't want to. I was driven by sports. That was it. Same way with college. But at that point in time in high school, I wanted to. I had scouts coming to games and stuff, radar guns all the time, and baseball was my ticket that I wanted to do.
What was the highest you ever got on the radar gun?
Like through my whole career?
Yeah, for your whole life.
Oh, 94.
94?
Yeah. That's like 160 on the guns now.
Is it?
No. They are different, though. That is not totally a different thing.
So when you were playing in that charity softball game, we're going to talk about that later.
Okay.
What do you think you threw at Keith? Because there was a relay play.
Was there?
Where he was at home plate, and you threw it to him, and I believe his hand still isn't the same 5 years later.
At that point, probably not too good. I was maybe 70.
All right, that was an aside right there. I had to ask, because he's been talking about it ever since.
Well, we had a lot of fun, but I remember hitting one like almost I had a really good hit to right center, and I almost got thrown out at second.
Yeah.
So, because I was so slow, out of breath and so slow.
That was a bad day. We
lost 2 games, right?
We got beat up pretty bad, but it's okay. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
All right, so can you tell us the story about when you were first drafted or signed, and kind of the feelings surrounding it, kind of achieving that level, and what that was like for you?
All right, so the feelings I had when I first got drafted was elated, excited, goal accomplished. I remember I was at home. It was in June, I guess, so 21 years old. And my grandparents happened to be down. And a big thing with my grandparents is when we went there or at our house, was we played poker with, nickels and dimes, right? I remember we were playing poker on the second day of the draft, and the phone rang. So for the first day, I didn't get a call, and so we were monitoring my phone, the home phone, right? Back then, you only had home phones. And the phone rang on the second day, and it was later in the evening, because I didn't know what was happening, but it was my scout. I think his name was Jerry Jordan, and he told me Phillies picked me up in the 40th round, and I was like cloud nine, man. So happy. And we came down here to college, my West Virginia State, with my college coach, Cal Bailey, who was huge in getting me drafted too. He was a big instrument in getting the scouts looking at me as well. We signed in the locker room, but it was, it was it was a dream come true, and I was like, I don't know even how to. It's no other feeling that than the first day getting called up in the big leagues. It's 2 days like that are very similar.
It's almost like you read my mind, because my next question goes to that day that you got called up in 1993. So you want to just extend that on how did
Sure.
you feel that day? Like,
Well,
that's
when I
gotta
got
be-
called up, we were in Columbus, Ohio. I was playing AAA for Scranton, was their team then. Now it's the Allentown Iron Pigs. But there was a scoreboard in right center at the field. It was in Columbus, and I seen below. I wasn't pitching; I was a starting pitcher. That I seen below that the game in Philly was like 25-4. We were getting spanked, right? And I swear I went, oh my God, I'm getting called up. And I wasn't pitching real good, but I wasn't bad, but I was on the 40-man roster. I said, in my mind, I didn't tell nobody, but in my mind, I said, I'm getting called up. And then after our game was over, we got in the clubhouse, and sure enough, manager calls me in and says, we're getting called up. I was like, holy shit. And I predicted it, but I mean, it was just because I knew they needed pitchers, and I was on the roster, but I just had that feeling, and I didn't sleep at all that night. I think I called my coach, Cal Bailey, who we just lost last year. He passed away from cancer, but I called him at 1 o'clock in the morning, and he was happy to accept the call, but I was pumped in my parents and everybody, but. Yeah, I didn't sleep very well, and then next day, we were leaving that day, and my team went one way, and I went to another way at the airport, and got on a plane to Philly, and there's no other way to. It's just a feeling you just can't describe, and for me, I was just so happy. So, I don't know.
All right, walk me through this one. What inning did you get called into the game?
Maybe sixth or seventh. Maybe Kurt Schilling was pitching. I got called in the second day I was up, and my very first pitch in the big leagues was a wild pitch. I can remember I had family up there. My ex-wife now was from Philly. Her family taped the game, and whoever was announcing was like, "How about that? Your first pitch in the big leagues is a wild pitch." And I remember that. I still got that old VHS tape somewhere. But, yeah, I was a little nervous. I only threw it like 5 feet wide left. Darren Dalton was catching, and he had no chance. And then the next one, same thing. He barely caught it backhanded. And the next one, same thing. And then finally, umpire's generous because it was a ball, but it was kind of just off the plate. And then next one, I threw a fastball through. The guy swung through. It was Royce Clayton. And then, same pitch, he hit a line drive to center, and Dykstra caught it for the out. So I was out. I was excited, and it was a little bit of a blur. I remember every pitch and everything, but the emotions were crazy. Let's say I had the tight ass.
I mean, man, pitching in front of 42,000 people during an early pennant chase had to be, that just had to be awesome.
It was terrifying, and also at the same time, I remember running on the field and just Dalton came up and Fergosi put me in, and he's like, started to walk away, and I'm like, listen, you don't even know what I'm throwing, right? I said, you want to know what I throw? He's like, nah, just pitch. And all he did was he was throwing fastballs down, fastball away the whole time. I never threw anything else, but I was so nervous. I said, well, he don't even know what I throw, fastball, changeup, curveball, slider, what? He's like, I don't want to know.
So when did you start to notice the pickup of alcohol, and where did it take you?
I didn't notice it until when I was done playing. I mean, so my last 6 years in the minor leagues and big leagues I was a reliever, so I had to pitch pretty much every day or be ready. So I wasn't drinking a whole lot. I mean, I did on days. If I threw 2 or 3 innings that night and I know I was going to tie one on probably, but it wasn't nothing out of control to, I guess so. There was some days. I think it was when I retired. I did get, when I was with the A's, I was playing AAA with Edmonton, and I guess I can name drop or whatever, but me and Matt Stairs, who's like a local hero now for Philly for the home run he hit, we were married and we didn't go out on the road. When we were on the road, we get beer and sit in our room and play video games. Well, we stayed up. I don't think we only had it might have been an 18-pack or something split between us, or maybe even a 12, I don't know. But it wasn't that much, but we were playing video games. The next day we go to the field and they're having a piss test, right, or for drugs. I go ahead and do it. It's no big deal. It must have been like my first one in the morning or something, or the day, because, like a week or two later, we're back home and they're calling me in the office, and I'm like, holy moly, I'm getting called up again? Nice. And they were telling me that I showed up to the field drunk. My blood alcohol must have been, I had to be drinking that morning. I was like, no, I was with Stairsy last night. We, told him the whole thing. And eventually, that's what I told him, and then they came back and said, well, we're not going to let you pitch until you go speak to somebody, a psychologist or somebody. I'm like, there's nothing wrong, right? And so I went and talked to this person, and the very next day, someone in Edmonton, and they said, no, you don't have a drinking problem. And told them the whole story, and I was pissed, right? I was like, you're not going to let me pitch because I'm telling you, here's what I did. I stayed up way too late drinking beer, playing video games, and then whatever it was. Well, your blood alcohol was where you were drinking. It shows you were drinking before you got to the field. I'm like, it's impossible. So that's one, I guess, was a warning sign, but I didn't start really drinking heavy till after I was done. I was just miserable when my career ended. I hated every single job that I tried to get, that I had, and it just was, from what I know now, it was like a death, right? My career and everything from 7 to 33, 32 or 33, I wanted to be what I was being, and it took a while to get over, and it's still, just in the last few years, is something that I don't have a baseball dream every morning, but I always had a dream every day, forever, until recently, in the last few years.
Do you want to talk about some of the darker moments of your life? Maybe
Darker?
the divorce, the suicide attempt,
Yeah.
anything of that nature
We
that
can
you're
go down that
comfortable
road.
with?
So some of the darkness I had was, what comes along with, I forget where. So the beginning of my really bad stuff was when I started drinking hard liquor, right? Crown Royal was my thing. And I remember I always had Crown and Coke. I drink beer too, but eventually that got to, somebody told my wife at the time at her work that, asked what I drank, and she said Crown and Cokes. And then she told me that he was like, oh, well, he's killing it with the Coke. So I said, really? So I just started drinking Crown and ice, cold, chilled. Well, that's what, I really got there quick. But the misery that I was having just existing without, I mean, my kids were young. I loved them to death. We were playing all the time, but I had to be, buzzed or feeling a certain way to be interactive, and to be outside. I'm throwing a football. I love that with my kid and my son. And my daughter was only 4 when I finally left the house. But, there was a lot of misery that I was just trying to mask. And I had to get there quick. And I started drinking Crown all the time. And even when jobs I was working, I couldn't wait because I'd always have a pint into my truck. And I had a 45-minute to an hour and 10 minutes to get home from work, from the office. I was an office job I couldn't stand. And by the time I got home, I had that down and I was feeling good, right? But it got to where I needed it. I'd wake up shaking and stuff, and then I'd have a couple of beers before work. Wife catching me slamming stuff, and it got pretty bad. And eventually I got basically thrown out of the house, right? My parents live here in West Virginia, and it was a Sunday. I'm at the house. She takes the kids out that day to go see her family, her mom and dad, her aunt and uncle, or whatever. And I'm thinking, nice, I got a free day. And I'm just going to watch the Eagles game, whatever. And I look outside the window, and there comes my parents walking up my driveway. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? They're 8 hours away, 7.5, 8 hours away. And my mom, man, she's like, I still remember, she's like, pack your bags, Paul. She's kicking you out. I'm like, what? What do you mean she's kicking me out, She's like, Kathy's kicking you out. So I was like shocked, surprised. And that hit hard. For me, when it still affects me today, not with that, I'm over that, the commitment and everything. But, when I married my wife, it was for better or for worse, right? So I just was that shocked that I was getting thrown out because that wasn't supposed to happen, right? I could do whatever I wanted. And now it's hard. If in relationships I'm in, if it's something, I'm not going to get, I kind of still guarded in relationships now because of the fact that, if I'm not married, then I don't have to stay in this. I can walk away, right? If I get married again, I know I'm committed. I'm there for life. But that's what got me pretty bad. And, I've had times where I'd go 45 days, I think, without drinking sometimes. And that was like on the 45th day, it'd be like a celebration day, and I'd start drinking again until I felt like crap again. Then I'd stop, and 45 days. So it was like my big thing where I could do it. But I ended up saying, when she kicked me out, I went home here to West Virginia. For 2 years, I didn't drink. I was in 2007. She kicked me out. I stayed down here for 2 years, and just for spite, I didn't drink. I wasn't sober. I just didn't drink, right? So I wasn't working a program. I wasn't doing anything except being pissed off and not drinking. And I didn't take it long until I was drinking again, and then going to work drunk and talking, just feeling like terrible about myself. And I went to work. I was working for Siemens and another desk job, and my buddy was working there, and I came in, I think I was drunk that morning, and he's like, you can't be here, you gotta leave. I'm like, what, man? He's like, you can't be here. And I said, I'll sit at my desk, they won't even know, whatever. He's like, no, you gotta go. And so I left, and I went home, and I drank the rest of the day and the rest of the night. And the rest of the day, the next day, and by the next time that's when I attempted suicide. I remember just feeling terrible. I took all my pills, prescription pills. But I had a bunch of them, the ones that for high blood pressure, the metoprolol, I think, like 60 of them, I just filled it. And that's what really almost got me. I felt terrible. I disappointed everybody. I didn't want to be around. I didn't want to be alive. And I drank so much till I convinced myself. And even there, I threw all these pills down. I remember drinking it down with vodka. And I was so sick with I threw them up. I couldn't get them down. Threw them up on the table. And I scooped them all up. I mean, guy was telling me then, no, don't do it. Here's your, and he wouldn't let me keep them down. I scooped them back up and threw them in. And then I called my wife, ex-wife, and told her, in a couple of days, come look for me. I don't want to stink up this guy's house. He was a really nice farm that was nice. It was really good. And she came over and found me. I was on my bed, out, I guess, and I don't remember anything from there. I don't remember making the phone call. Next thing I know, I wake up 4 days or 3 days later, and there's a guy by my bed. I'm like, who are you? The psych ward was a experience. I had to go, once I got discharged from there, I had to go to the psych ward, which spent 4 days there. That was worse than anything. Scared the hell out of me. I mean, I didn't think I belonged there, but then eventually, the doc's like, nobody sane will try to kill themselves. So they got something wrong. I'm like, yeah, but I'm not like these people, right? Like people were talking themselves, and yeah, this isn't me. But that was pretty bad. My kids had to go through that, but I don't know. I think my wife kind of said something different than he tried to kill himself. They didn't find out till years later, I think. And dark times, man. Dark times. I only stayed sober for maybe a month, or didn't drink for maybe a month, and I was drinking again.
So what precipitated your first, foray into actual long-term recovery? What were the events?
The last time I was in West Virginia here, and I was selling cars. My buddy I played college ball with, Kevin Hall. He was my boss, and if I came in drunk or smelling or whatever, he'd send me home, right? No real fire. He wouldn't fire me or anything. I was working for him, and I had a weekend off or something. I think this was when my daughter was 9, and she had a father-daughter dance. And I was supposed to go up on Friday, and we were going to do the dance. And I woke up to drive. I drank so much the night before, I woke up the next morning to drive to Philly, and I knew I couldn't. I was like, I'm screwed. So I called my ex-wife then. I said, I can't. And that was the worst thing. She really laid into me, which I deserved. Don't ever promise your daughter something else again because she's looking forward to this. And I drank the rest of the weekend. And then I woke up I spent a good day on the bathroom floor. And that was the first time I remember the floor moving. I started hallucinating. And that kind of freaked me out. And I knew, I said to myself, I said, it's either time to die or get help. Do it one way or the other. Because I couldn't keep alcohol down anymore. And every time I tried to get to that point where, I started feeling better physically with the alcohol, but it wouldn't let me keep it down. And I just knew I was going to die or I was going to get better. So I called my mom and my sister, and I said, I need help. And I spent 10 days in another psych ward because I said I didn't want to live. I said the key words. And from there, I went to Florida for treatment. But that was it. I mean, anytime I question myself or even wonder the motivation to stay where I'm at now is I put myself on that bathroom floor again, knowing how I felt that day. Seriously, I was going to die. Even with the suicide attempt, I was drunk and everything. I didn't want to kill myself, but I was ashamed and hated myself, who I was, because I couldn't stop it. I couldn't control it, and I had threatened many, many times before to kill myself. To do that. I remember I was in my truck talking to my ex-wife in my parents' driveway, drunk, and I was saying, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to get it. And I got in the truck, and she kept me on the line. She called somebody else and said, Paul's in the driveway talking about killing himself. And next thing you know, I had family coming there. My younger sister, this hit me. You can't kill yourself. You're Paul Fletcher. Like, Paul Fletcher was somebody special, right? And that was part of the issue. I was Paul Fletcher, somebody who's supposed to be this person, this Major League Baseball player, this somebody that my family maybe looked up to or somebody else did, and that was, Paul Fletcher was a weak-ass punk who couldn't stay sober, and that's what I knew. And that the shame and everything is what kept me in it for so long. You know what I mean? I know it's just part of being able to get over that. I didn't love myself, and I hated myself, and I wanted out. But that part, that day in my bathroom, I finally decided I didn't really want to die.
Well, I think there's a couple of things I want to go back to from that, because there's some things that people might not understand. People who are watching this that have never experienced addiction, people who have just seen it in others. And you were talking about, kind of want or needing to drink to feel better. But then when you drink, it doesn't even make you feel better, but you continue to drink, right? Mm-hmm. That is such an anomaly and a thing that only exists in people who struggle with substance use disorder. And it's something that I feel like we have to highlight and talk about a little bit, because I've known you now for 6 years, and I know you to be an intelligent, capable person. But don't laugh at that. That was serious. You're intelligent and capable to me. But as it relates to this one thing, alcohol, you lack power. You lack the ability to stop on your own. And I think that's one of those things that we have to talk about and we have to verbalize, because the shame and stigma that comes with being unable to stop also has to stop for people to be able to get better and be in recovery. So
that is something, me as a person that's in recovery now, I'm going to say probably 3 years ago, 4 years ago, it was my whole goal is to get people to understand that fact, right? That the alcohol takes over us. It's not that we want to drink. It just makes us drink, right? And that's why we can't do it alone. And now it's such an uphill battle to get that stigma that I've kind of lost that focus to push that, because I get so frustrated because people still, even my mother, she'll watch TV and those are, the druggies, they're druggies. I said, Mom, that's me. I'm an alcoholic. I'd say, that's not you. Whatever, right? She still doesn't see me as people that are like me, right? Mm-hmm. But yeah, when I was drinking, I would wake up. The alcohol took over my life. And people look at it and they don't understand the fact that, well, just stop drinking. Anytime I tried to stop, it was, my body would not let me. One time I seized up where I had just my hands, my body, my arms just cramped up so bad that I couldn't move. I was freaking out. They called the ambulance, and of course they got pissed off, right? Another drunk ass guy that they took me to the emergency room, remember? And I threw up on the floor, just pissing people off, right? Give the guy fluids and get him out of here, right? And that's how it is. And I knew it, and that just adds to the self-hate, the shame you feel. And you just can't explain it to people. And that is very, very difficult. Only the most compassionate people can really, truly understand and maybe think they understand what alcohol or the drugs do to a person. But every day, I would call myself a piece of, piece of crap every day in the mirror, but I'd still go drink because I had to have it. My body needed it. My hands were shaking. Everything. My mind needed it. And then physically, after a little bit, I'd feel better, but mentally, forget about it. And you just can't get that point. Every boss I've had because I talk about it now to everybody who wants to know. It used to be a shameful thing for me. I would never dare. That's what kept me sick. I didn't want to admit that I had a problem, that I had something I couldn't beat. I could beat anything before. I can talk. Listen, I can grind through the minor leagues of baseball and get to the big leagues. Now, that's not an easy thing to do, but, in my mind, I could do it. And then alcohol, I could not do it. It would not let me beat it without help and taking the right steps. And people always just said, stop, dude, just stop. Well, hell, if it was that easy, I would, but I can't. And people who haven't experienced it or know it firsthand or know a loved one that's and can relate to that loved one enough don't and will never understand it. And that's hard to get somebody to understand. You're not going to be able to get them to. I still, like I said, my mom, I got people in my life that they don't see me as that person who I am. And I'm like, that is me. I just don't drink no more. I'm in recovery, but that was me. Oh, that wasn't you. It's terrible.
Well, it's a testament to your recovery is that, it almost seems so far back in the past. Maybe they can't even see that that's how you used to be.
Well, yeah, I have people in my life now that, you do too, that never have seen me that way. Don't know me that way. And will say, I can't even imagine you being that way, And that's another testament to the recovery and everything. But, yeah, that's a life that you don't want nobody ever to see again. And for me, it's a motivation to just keep being present in each day and active and knowing what I've worked for and what I'm going towards, and trying to help somebody else all the time to be, somewhere along the path of where we went and where I went. And that's how we kind of keep it. But I will always keep that day in my bathroom floor. That's my motivation. And when I worked in treatment centers as a tech or BHT, when they would come in that first night, I said, listen, I want you, they'd be saying thank you for all that. Listen, remember this in 7 days, how you feel right now. Because in 7 days, you're going to feel better, you're going to get cocky again, and you're going to want to leave, and you're going to do this. And very few would get it and remember that, but I told them all. And most, young people and everybody would just, screw it, man. I feel better. I can do it. I'm not going to do it again, right? That's part of the cycle. So, yeah, I've been able to hold on to that day.
You want to talk about some achievements that you've gotten to experience since you got sober? Like, I did a little bit of research on you, Paul. Even though I've known you for a while, I still did some research because I knew I had to interview you. And I saw that you were inducted into the Mid-Ohio Sports Hall of Fame. Is that correct, sir?
I am, but I wasn't sober when it happened.
Oh?
I was still drinking during that.
Really?
Yeah, that was in probably 2012.
See, I think my research may have been bad. I thought that was later.
No. So. But it wasn't. It was something, yeah. That was a big honor, but I remember there was a 2-day thing. The first night, probably I had to make a speech. It was the worst because I remember I was going to the bar and taking a shot, double every time. Like probably had 4 or 5 shots before I went up and had to be inducted and talk to everybody. And I'm sure it sucked. It was terrible. I didn't give right credit to the right people and stuff like that. But it was a big honor, yeah. High school, the Football Hall of Fame, I was in that inaugural thing. That was, I think, something I was sober for. Definitely it was.
How about getting invited back to the 30th anniversary?
25th.
25th anniversary? There you go.
That was big. That was a big time.
Want to talk about that one a little bit?
Yeah, no, that was the 25th anniversary of the 93 World Series team. Even though I was on the team, I only faced that one batter. I am, for diehard, I learned this, for diehard Philly fans or a collector, it's hard to get my autograph for the whole team there because I was only there, So I did make a little extra money on the side from going to card shows because I said, nobody wants me there. Yeah, they do because they don't have your autograph and they want that complete set. And because you only face one guy, one hitter, then, they didn't get a chance to get it. I was like, okay. So I can use that and make a couple bucks. But, yeah, no, that was awesome. We went and they invite me, and it's coming up again this year. It's the 30th, right? And I was reminded that I went to an alumni game this past summer. Being able to do that and the Phillies are nice enough to bring me back for that because it is, realistically, I didn't get a ring, right? A championship ring. And and I'm a little pissed off about that. Even minor league coaches and trainers all the way down to rookie ball got a National League championship ring. And I didn't, even though I was on the team. So that's what ticks me off, right? So I went to John Kruk. I'm like, dude, I didn't even. He's like, Fletch, you faced one guy. What do you want? I said, I want a ring. I mean, we got trainers. He's like, dude, you faced one guy. What do you want? You can't. We lost that day. You did nothing, No,
you got him out.
Yeah, but I got him out, but we still lost the game.
It counts as 0.1 inning, correct?
At 0.1, yes.
It's a third of an inning. It counts.
It counts in the rook, but it didn't. Like his point was, I didn't do anything to contribute to the World Series. So yeah, I'm a little mad about that. But yeah, we're coming up on the 30th year, and like I said, this is a big year. But that game that weekend was really good, but for more personal reasons too. That I got engaged on the big screen that day, and I'm no longer engaged, and. They're a little. I mean, She got along great with everybody there. She got to meet Mike Schmidt's wife, and she didn't even know who Mike Schmidt was. Yeah. So anyway, but it was. She's just was that. I guess she was compared to his wife, about they're like the same type of people, spiritual and very religious. Not really religious, but just so nice. And they said, "Oh, you got to meet." And I don't remember her name, but they put them together. And then now they're like, "Oh, where's Tammy?" And I'm like, So.
All right, so semi-off topic, but still sort of on topic. Who was your favorite baseball team when you were a kid?
Believe it or not, it was the Phillies.
Was it?
Yeah.
I was wondering because I was going to ask when you got drafted, who were you hoping you got drafted by?
I had the Phillies I was hoping for. I always liked the Reds when I was a little kid, because there's Cincinnati, 3 hours away. There's Cleveland, 3 hours away, and there's Pittsburgh, 3 hours away, right? And so football, I was a Steelers fan, but in the early '80s, I loved the Sixers because of Dr. J. The Eagles, I think it was Wilbert Montgomery was the running back, loved him, and the Schmidt in the '80s. So all three of my teams were at one point Philly teams. So baseball guys are a little superstitious and stuff. So I remember going to Dairy Queen. They had those helmet cups, and you just got what you got. Well, I got a Philly helmet. I thought that was a sign, and next thing you know, I got drafted by the Phillies.
If there's one thing that you could say to somebody who is watching this and struggling with alcohol, what would it be?
Great question. Well, for those that are struggling with alcohol, the one thing I would say is to realize there's nothing to be ashamed about, all right? Everybody is human. Everybody has issues. It just so happens that their issue is alcohol. We learn not to like or love ourselves, and the whole key for me was to learn to like and love myself. To not value your opinion of me anymore, all right? I had to value my own self. But that was the one thing that kept me sick for so long and not asking for help, because I was worried what somebody else thought about me. So my big thing, and it helped me the most, and the one thing I think would help a lot of others, is to don't give a crap about what anybody else thinks about you. Start caring about what you think and work on you, and just be able to surrender to that point. There's words in recovery that people throw around it, but they really are things you have to do. Surrender is huge. And it's a feeling that just lifts. Once you do, it's like the weight is lifted. I mean, I remember when I went to treatment the last time, I said, just tell me what to do. I don't know what I'm doing. Just tell me. I'll do it. And that's how it helped me. I mean, that was the only thing. Saved me. I had to totally surrender. So, it's a long explanation, but I think that's the whole key for me and anybody else.
Keith's question, his favorite question of all of these, so we've asked everybody else,
All right.
is if you had to pick one blessing from your recovery, what would it be?
The first thing that came to me is my kids. That's my true blessing from not drinking, is to be able to be present in their lives, and for them, not to be ashamed of their dad anymore, which they, I don't think they are. I think they're proud again, but, at a point there had to be, and I'm sure they heard it. We lived in Philly, played for Philly, so the kids, they don't see it as a big deal, but I'm sure that other people talked about it and said, your dad's a drunk, blah, 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 and going to their sporting events, being that way. And now them, being able to look at and know that it's just dad, not, it's more so just plain dad, not dad the drunk, is my best blessing. I mean, I remember, speaking of we talked earlier about the 25th anniversary of the Phillies, right? So we had to go down in the concourse at the stadium and sign autographs at a table for like a half an hour, right? I had Dave Hollins to my left, me, and Larry Boa on the right. And my ex-fiance, she brought my daughter down there where I was at. And I was just signing these cards they had of us. And I looked up, and there was my daughter. And I mean, the look on her face, it was the only time, and the first time I've seen her, she was actually, I could tell by her expression how proud she was, and like, that's my dad, you know what I mean? It was so cool. And she's hardcore like, me now. She doesn't, we have 2-second conversations on the phone. How's school going? Great. And you need anything? Nope. One-word answers, and I can get the phone call done, which I don't want, but it's done in 2 minutes. But seeing her face was, I still remember it today. This was almost 5 years ago. I could tell she was proud. And then we did it again this year. This summer we went for an alumni game, the one with Pete Rose was there. She went to the game with me as my guest, and we had 2 tickets, so my son said, take Brooke. So me and her went, and it was awesome. being able to do that and being able to be in my kid's life and not being what I was before is the best gift. I mean, you're a new father, and I'm excited for you. I'm telling you, there's no love like you have for your kids. There's no other explainable love you have for your kids. And you never want to let them down. You never want to disappoint them. And I did, you know. And I don't see them as much as I want to. They're grown. They're getting older. They got to move on too. But, man, it's good to be able to go back to them.
Dude, that was such a good story, though.
Which one?
About your daughter.
Oh.
About her, you know, getting to see you do that and stuff.
I can
Like,
remember
that's-
her face, man. I just was like, holy, and it just looked at me. And she's not a, she's pretty reserved when we're around me and people. She's not a huge, she's too much like me. She just had this smile on her face, like a, you know, a look. It wasn't a, yeah, you know, but it was a, you know, a smile that I could tell she was really happy, and she looked like she was impressed with her old man. So that was something nice. And she sat there for the whole time, staring, just watching me sign autographs. That was awesome.
That's so great. So you have to remind me that I have my Paul Fletcher autographed baseball card still. I still have two.
Oh, yeah?
2 of the 4 that you signed. I have one in the office and one in my house.
I think you can go on eBay and get them, too, for $1.
Well, I mean, maybe, probably, but mine were hand signed by Paul Fletcher right in front of me at that addiction rally
good
at
luck.
the stadium. You know, I remember that. That
Yeah,
was
that's cool.
that was a good time running around in 2018 and talking to all the different
That was
cities.
nice. I really enjoyed that.
In 2018, when we first met, you know, we went on a 17-city town hall tour. We went and spoke about addiction, about recovery, about our stories, and you know, you want to talk a little bit about that and how that was to meet all the different people and families and folks?
It was a awesome experience because, like you said, we went 17, but Pennsylvania is a pretty big state, so you know, we went all kinds of different places, the whole state, and it was cool. I mean, I got to be up there and explain and help somebody maybe by hearing our stories. And when people afterwards would come up and ask questions or say how much they related to what I said and what we all said, it made it all just worthwhile. I mean, you did a phenomenal job of getting, you know, local TV stations to come by, you know. And so the coverage we were getting was awesome. And I think because we went to so many different cities that we were able to touch more people. How many or what, you know, I think there's a percentage, a small percent that's going to latch on, but they're all, and then you're going to help them. But that's all that mattered is if we got 1 or 2, you know what I mean? But that was awesome. I loved going around. There was days that I think my speeches sucked. And then there's a couple of them I was like, yeah, that was a good one. You know what I mean? And because I don't have a script or anything, I just kind of wing it every time and some days I'm better at hitting the points and sometimes I'm, like I said, sucked. But, you know, that was a lot of them. So I really appreciated being on that tour. I mean, that meant a lot to me to be able to do that. It was something that still helped me along that way, too. The more I talk about it, the more reminders I get of where I was and what I don't want to go back to. So, I mean, that's all. I think part of the giving back process is also a way to give back to yourself and keep you in that mindset. I don't know. I don't think it's a bad thing to use that as part of your recovery or your story. I know sometimes people that work in treatment sometimes tend to stay away or fall away from meetings and all that stuff and use their daily work to stay connected or sober. But this way of being able to talk and reach larger audiences and relate to people afterwards is I mean, for me, it helped. It really did. I loved being able, because I was such the opposite when I was sick. You know, I was not talking about it. I was hiding it, or trying to hide it, even though, you know, that myth that they can't smell vodka, it's not true, right? Everybody can smell the alcohol in my breath, even though I couldn't. I thought people couldn't smell me, but you're not fooling anybody but yourself.
I think one of the things that was truly telling from Paul's story was that even though he achieved the highest of heights in his industry, he played in the major leagues. He pitched in front of 40,000 plus people. Addiction still impacted him just like it impacts a regular guy like me. 5 years ago, in 2018, we embarked on a 17-city town hall tour across Pennsylvania to spread awareness about addiction, recovery, and the resources available to people. And it's very heartening to see Paul doing the same things that he was doing 5 years ago, reaching out, helping individuals who are new in recovery, and just going above and beyond to make sure that folks have access to resources.